Hi, guys, and welcome back to my podcast, The Lonely Fake Club. I'm your host, Vivian, and this is my podcast where the title really doesn't make sense, so neither does this podcast. Welcome back to another episode. So, as if you did watch my last episode, you do know that this is my final episode of this month. I unfortunately think I need to give myself a little break with my podcast. And I know I just already switched up the location. This might be where I'm permanently next time once I figure out like more stuff I want to do. I've had so much fun doing this podcast and like really like trying to figure out a niche for it. But I realize that I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to make podcast episodes. And I feel like 10 for the first season is like the perfect amount to really like see what has gotten me more engagement, what's gotten a little bit more views, kind of like what my niche should be. And I do think I'm probably going to follow in the lane of book reviews and talking about books, talking about movies, talking about things like that. So I really do feel like that's the route I want to take. I'm so sorry, I'm just saying my cat's about to go use the litter box. Because right here, I'm in my bedroom and the litter box is right over there, so I'm really scared you might hear him. But like I said, I'm trying to figure out what niche I really want this podcast to be, because I know I did a few like kind of like story times and a few things that are a little different, like talking about my life and stuff like that. And not that I don't enjoy that, trust, you guys know I could yap for forever. But I do feel like with this podcast I want to make sure I'm doing something that I can not write a script about, but I can do like bullet points and really help myself like make sure that this is like a coherent and like not coherent, a cohesive like like river of information. And there he goes. I really hope you can hear that, because my cat, oh my gosh, when I first got him, I never realized how loud of a, can I say this? Like a peer he is. When I first got him, he had, like a plastic litter box with like no lid, and I was cleaning it like every 30 minutes because I was in my tiny little bedroom in college. Not in a dorm, trust. I would never have an animal in the dorm. I cannot do that. But I did have a tiny little room at my friend's apartment that we split. Not we split, but like she had her room, I had my room. And it was itty bitty, like tiny little box. And so when I got him, I never realized how loud he could be, but he's still loud to this day. I've had him for almost, I think, 4 years now, and he's the loudest peer I've ever heard. I never hear him go number 2 ever, but when he pees, he pees. He pees. I'm pretty sure my other roommates can probably attest to this, that he is loud. Our other cat, Max, who also, that's him immediately running off. I think it's so funny. I definitely thought it was just a me thing with my cats. But I've seen more and more videos of, sorry, he's just running back and forth, of cats who get the zoomies after they poop. But our other cat, Max, rest in peace, he wasn't a loud pisser. Like, a little, kind of loud, but, like, Dexter was loud. Sorry, that was, like, totally random and, like, totally not what I was talking about. But every time I see him, I always have to look. He's my child. He's my baby. But something I do... No, sorry. He's so crazy. He's so rambunctious. I do think that he's bored. He did live with another cat, like I said, Max, for about a year-ish, and he was thriving. But unfortunately, we moved away from each other, me and the other girl. She ended up moving out and obviously took her cat with her. So he's been alone for almost three-ish years now, which sucks. No, 2 years. 2 years now. Which sucks because I know that he, like, really bonded with Max. They were so sweet with each other. Did they fight a little bit? Yeah, but like Dexter is not really a fighter like that. He doesn't really use his claws. If he does, it's because he's not because he's angry, because he's like, enough. But most of the time he'll like soft paw you and hit you and stuff like that. He's more vocally like angry, like he's a big hisser. If like he doesn't like something, he'll hiss at me. And I'm like, dude, I'm just standing here. And he's like, I think it's so funny. But him and Max were really, really close together and were really, really rambunctious together. So I really do think that he's like bored now officially. Because when we first moved here, he was totally fine. He was acting the same way he was before. But now he's like a little bit more of like, he's a little lazy cat. He'll play with us, but he won't play for that long. We've tried to give him like, sorry, he started sneezing. And I was like, what in the world? We try to give him like silver vine and like catnip and stuff like that in order to like give him some sort of enrichment. And I always try to give him like little things to play with, and I always let him smell whatever he wants to smell. But I do think that now that he's getting just like a little bit older, because when I first got him, I really didn't know how old he was. I think he was already probably a yearish old when I picked him up at the shelter. Because he is a little bigger than most normal cats, because Max was, I think, less than a few months, probably older than him, to be completely honest. I don't really know, but Max was itty bitty tiny, but they were really close in age, I think. I really don't know. My friend got Max as a kitten, so he was probably already a year-ish old by the time they moved in together, almost 2, I think. So Dexter was already pretty big, so I just assumed he was just an older kitten. But I think he's hitting like the 4 or 5-year-old mark at this point. Probably older, honestly. He's probably like 5 or 6, but I really, really don't know. I've had him for 4 years. So he's, yeah, probably like 5 or 6. I really wish there was like a more definitive way for me to figure out how old he is. I kind of just go based off of like how long I've had him and how much I feel like he is. Just off vibes. So that kind of sucks that I don't really know how old he is or like his birthday or anything like that. So I kind of just use the day I adopted him and what they think it was. They think it was sometime in March. Around that last year, I really don't know. So he's like, I think it was March, but I really could not tell anyone. So I usually swap between if I want to use March or if I want to use the day I got him, which was November 9th. I got him as my own birthday present to myself. I didn't have animals growing up. We never had dogs, cats, fish, nothing. My mom said she was allergic to cats, which I don't know if that was true. But also, this is kind of crazy. Whenever I'm with him, sometimes my eyes do get like extra watery and I do get little bit of a stuffy nose. But most of the time it goes away. But my siblings, my sisters, have said that whenever I have brought Dexter over to my parents' house, my youngest sister would literally be like, yeah, I'm allergic to him. My eyes are really watery because he stayed in her room. But my oldest sister would have him in her room, I think twice after that. And she never really had any complaints about it. So either my mom is correct, or it's just like we kind of just developed it. And also Dexter had a really bad dandruff problem. Which is fixed now because I have him on some specific treats that help with his coat, and also the water things that I give him also help with his coat. So he's not, and I brush him like all the time. I actually think it's kind of crazy how much he lets me brush him, which is so therapeutic for me. I just love to sit there and brush him. He purrs like a maniac whenever I do that. He loves it so much. But sometimes when he's like sick of me brushing him, he literally is like, girl. And he'll like start to try and bite the The brush. I'm so sorry. I'm going on like this random tangent about my cat when I was going to talk about something actually like kind of scary. Not scary, but something that I always think is so cool. And every time I see a documentary about it, I always have to watch it. I always have to sit through it. But I'm going to link the TikToker's YouTube or her videos or whatever in the description of this podcast, because I think this girl has such... she is the blue-haired horror girl. I don't know if you've ever seen her on TikTok, but she talks about like horror movies and like TV shows and just like the lore that goes behind some of them. And she pops up a few times on my For You page. And today's April Fool's Day. And she came up on my For You page yesterday, and she was talking about this book that she had just finished reading, and it was called Michelle Remembers. A lot of people my age probably have no idea about any of this stuff, because I didn't either, because none of us were alive during the Satanic Panic, which was basically like mass hysteria about Satanist cults that happened in the 80s and 90s. And she discusses this book that came out that kind of like kickstarted this whole mania, essentially. And it's about this woman who goes to therapy because she's having like these feelings of that. I really don't know how to describe what she was doing or what she was thinking or why she went back to therapy. But through the therapy sessions with her therapist or psychiatrist, he reveals to her that she has some sort of repressed memories when she was 5 years old, about her mother essentially selling her off to a satanic cult and all of these horrific things that they did to her for the span of, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 15 months, so it was almost a year. And a lot of people believed her, obviously, because it's in a book. Why would people who are writing a book lie? She talks in her video about how this kind of like kickstarted it and what's going on in this book. And I'm going to link it down there because she describes it a lot better than I can. Because I did a little bit of research, but somebody in the comments had recommended, and also she did, recommended this documentary called Satan Wants You. And it was about how Michelle Remembers, again, started this whole thing and how more and more people came forward about how they also had repressed memories when they were this age and that this happened to them. But people were starting to realize, as it like slowly came down, that they couldn't find any genuine evidence to these cults that so many people were talking about, and that so many of these women came forward. And you know what? I will always believe a woman no matter what. And if it comes out that she's lying, then like I will understand that she's lying if there's evidence to prove it. But obviously, if so many people are coming forward, it has to have some sort of truth to it, right? And this documentary is talking about how this book had transitioned into more women coming forward, more police investigations, the FBI being involved. And there's an FBI agent who makes me laugh so hard in this documentary. It's on Tubi. If you have the time, please watch it. It's actually really informative. It's really cool. There's another one that I did want to watch that was about Satanic Panic and was just about that specific era of the 80s and 90s and not really about Michelle Remembers. But I haven't watched it yet because I don't know if I'm ready to dive into that, not conspiracy theory, but like into that era of time, because I know that was something it's starting to become, not new, but it's like being regurgitated into like this era with the MAGA conspiracies and things like that. It's like slowly like mirroring what happened with Satanic Panic now with people attacking transgender people and LGBTQI people and things like that. And you just, you notice the parallels when they're talking about the Satanic Panic in this documentary, and with this crazy conspiracies that are happening now. And it's so crazy to see how history does continue to repeat itself, and people choose not to believe that when it's right in front of our faces. I really like this documentary because her sister also is so crazy. So her sister, she has two sisters, and both of them are talking about, like, I don't know where she's getting this information from, because yes, our mom was a bad mother. They can both agree upon that their mom wasn't the best. But their mom was also a victim of abuse, who also abused alcohol, and was a single mother pretty much their entire childhood. And so when when their mother passed and they were placed into, I'm assuming, foster care, because I really didn't notice that much. They were talking about how they all got separated. But her sister, one of them was just talking about, like, I really don't understand where this girl is getting her rocks off on this. And there was a lot of conspiracies about it, and the wife of the psychiatrist also did her own investigating, because she was just like, I don't know how this woman has managed to infiltrate my life this much, because the patient and the psychiatrist, they have a bigger relationship outside of client and psychiatrist, Michelle and the psychiatrist. And the wife is just genuine, because Michelle would call all the time, would call and leave voicemails and pull up to their house and stuff like that. And the wife is like, what is going on? And then eventually they divorce, and the client and the psychiatrist get married. They get married. And so many people were like, okay, this is crazy. And so the sister literally says something so funny. She's like, she's talking about all this, like, blood flowing out of her, but just like how those lies flow out of her. Crazy. Gagged her. Clocked her shit. Like, a lot of the time, the people who they're interviewing, there is one woman who's profusely believes that what happened to Michelle was real, and that she just believes her wholeheartedly and doesn't see past, like, obvious cracks in the story, and how there's no genuine evidence. And even though they've talked about where the house was and all that stuff, the wife had done so much research and was like, what? Why is this? And, like, even pulled up to Michelle's, like, school, and was like, can I please see your yearbooks for the years that apparently she was locked away for a year and a half or something like that. I don't know if it was a year, but I want to say it was like 5 months or something. 5 months to a year. I really don't know. I didn't write too much down now that I'm talking about it. But if you want a more cohesive thing, go watch the documentary Satan Wants You. It's on Tubi. I really loved it. And, like, pulls up with this evidence of Michelle's childhood photo being in this yearbook, and her being in, like, like the little class pictures at the end and stuff. Like, she's in there for that year that she was supposedly, like, held captive by this satanic cult. And so a lot of people have disproven that, and a lot of the other women who came forward and talked about their repressed memories, and they were also taken by satanic cults, actually realized that it was their psychiatrist and therapist is doing, because the psychiatrist and therapist were getting paid, obviously, more, because they were treating the satanic cult stuff. It was like satanic ritual abuse, and so they were getting paid more money for doing it, because, like, obviously they want to track down these cults and have more people be converted into the Catholic Church and stuff like that. And a lot of these therapists were, I think, pretty sure, were Catholics. So what ended up happening is that they were just billing these people for more and more money to help them get those repressed memories out and tell their stories. And come to find out, those were planted. That when they were under hypnosis or some sort of treatment that they were happening, their therapist was egging them and planting seeds, and I forget, it like misguiding them. And some women did win their lawsuits against their therapist and psychiatrist. One woman in the documentary was awarded almost $2.4 million in damages because of what her therapist was doing to her. And again, at the end of all this, the true root of what was happening with the satanic cult epidemic or whatever was capitalism, was money, was greed. And I think that's something that's so just so crazy to think about, that most of the time whenever stuff like that happens, at the root, at the center of it is always money. It's greed. It's how much can I get out of this person? How much can I get out of this? And there was churches who were involved in the making of Michelle Remembers, the book, and how they just made so much money off of this book, and how it just like tidal waved in this like horrible washing over. Sorry, that's my timer. Also for me to wrap it up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to talk for a little bit longer about this. And this tidal wave of awfulness that happened. So many people were wrongly convicted of things, and there are so many other cases that they talk about in this documentary. One about a daycare, about a teacher, and stuff like that, and how all of them were falsely accused of these crimes because of satanic panic. And you're slowly starting to see that again nowadays, because again, all of these conspiracies that are coming out of right-wing propaganda is frightening. It's scary. It's honestly 10 times worse than what you would have seen back then, because nowadays you have AI generated videos that can manipulate people into believing that so and so really did walk into this store and do this and that. And again, with people who just believe everything that's on their little phone. Like, nobody ever fact checks anymore, and as much as they say they do, they don't. They look up one thing, and the one first link that they click on, if it says .org or .whatever, they fully believe it. When it's like, you can easily manipulate that stuff. You have to do your research. You have to. Did none of you go to school and write an essay? Did none of you have to make an annotated bibliography? Did none of you have to make a reference page or a works cited page? Did none of you do that? Apparently not. Because if you really did and you actually thought critically with a lot of these things that are coming out nowadays, none of this would actually be happening. We wouldn't have a Satanic Panic Part 2. But this time it's more homophobic, it's more transphobic, and it's just something that I just cannot get past. That genuinely makes me so upset, because you would think, because people think about Satanic Panic and they're like, oh, I never would have believed that unless I saw clear-cut evidence. But yet you believe all those AI generated. Like, your grandma is watching AI generated America's Got Talent videos and sobbing, crying to the little ballerina who gets out of the AI generated like crutches and then starts dancing all of a sudden, and they fully believe that. Like, you're telling me that their vote matters more than mine? It's just so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me, because if we were there back then, I would be one of those people who genuinely would have to see harsh evidence about it. And there are there are pictures in Michelle Remembers where she's like, the devil coiled his tail around my neck, and you can see this, and it's actually like a really gross rash that she has. Or how people would ask her genuinely, if all this happened to you, because apparently they like sewed stuff on her and they cut her up and things like that. They're like, why don't you have any of these scars? Why do you not have any physical evidence against them? Like, why isn't there anything on you to prove that this happened? And she claims that the angel or the Saint Michael, I'm not sure, I don't know what it is, I think it's Angel Michael came down and blessed her and took away all of her scars. Me, if I was delusional. Like, it's actually so crazy how so many people took this to be fact and never, like, thought to check it ever again. And that's just something that has really, like, again, has profoundly affected this generation and their critical thinking, is that they don't ever want to do the research. They just want to believe that the person that they're watching on TV isn't lying to them, which is fair if you find a really genuine person who can show you their research and can show you their credentials and their degrees and stuff like that. Then you know that, okay, they have some sort of truth to them, but I have to do my own research to be fully informed in this topic that I want to discuss. And that's just something I feel like has been lacking with with so many kids nowadays, and people who are also my age that have fallen down this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, of just genuine hoopla, and just fully believe it with their full chest and never think twice to remember that we all learned about propaganda in high school, right? We all took a world history class. We all saw those posters. We all saw that. And you fully believe that you wouldn't be able to fall for it? That was the whole point. That was the whole point. And I think some people just like are willfully ignorant because the world is so dark nowadays. There are few lights of hope, and it's a really grim world right now, and that really affects people. And some people just want to live their days and assume that none of it will affect them, and it might not right now because it's just starting. But in a few years, in a few months even, it will directly affect them, and they're going to wonder, why did I never see this coming? And it's because you willfully let yourself be blinded. But I can only do so much, unfortunately, and I try to do my best to remember that, again, the bad people will be stopped. They have to, right? That's the story we've been taught our entire lives, that the bad guys will be stopped. And that's really all I can tell myself at the end of the day, is like, all of this breaking news, all of this terrible things that are happening, somebody has to stop it, right? Somebody. And whether that be 4 years down the line, or if it be in 6 months, or it be whenever, somebody has to stop them. Unfortunately, I do think that there will be irreparable damage at the end of this term, that hopefully the next person that comes in can somehow manage to pick up the pieces of this broken country. I feel like a lot of the times I watch these documentaries and they just remind me that, like, history will continue to repeat itself, and hopefully it will repeat itself in the best way in the next few months. Because unfortunately, I don't have the means or financial means to donate as much as I would want to do the things that I could do. Really, all I can do is help with this hunk of junk that was. It's so crazy how this documentary has really just spiraled me, not in the best way, but in a good way, of just like really critically thinking about what's happening in our world and realizing all these parallels. And once you watch it as well, which I hope you do, because it is a really well done documentary, really puts into perspective how easily media can be manipulated into whatever story or thing that people want to get out of it. And I think that's a hard lesson a lot of people are starting to learn, unfortunately. But I think with all these new social media apps and all these new AI things, it's going to be a little harder to be be confirmed with the hard truth. So that's kind of just where I'm going to end this. I know this is going to be a longer video, and I'm not upset about that. But if you sit through this whole thing, I really appreciate you. And I hope that if anything I said really does resonate with you, that it means that you are going to go out and do your own research and provide your own and back yourself up. If this video pisses you off, be sure to just go ahead and unsubscribe, because I am not somebody who will bend the knee to this horrible administration that we're under right now. And if you don't like that, that's totally fine. You can leave. I really don't care. Sorry, I really don't. With that, I hope you guys stay strong. I will be back. Not in the stay strong and like waiting for me. I mean, stay strong in what's going on in this world. I will be back in maybe like a month or two. I really just want to take my time to decompress, but I will still be posting my regular YouTube videos. That's kind of just what I'm going to be doing and focusing on. But other than that, go watch Saint Wants You on Tubi, or go read Michelle Remembers. It's filled with a lot of Catholic propaganda, so if you are not into that, don't read it. But there are a few more documentaries that I could talk about, so I might link one or two that I really do enjoy that's talking about this kind of stuff. But with that, I'm going to end this podcast episode. Sorry it was such a long tangent. I just had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. But yeah, I will see you guys in a month. Bye!